We're back with Season 4, Episode 20, Leap of Faith. This is the episode in which Flim and Flam come back, and they're like, hey, we've got this miracle tonic, you should totally buy it from us, it's very legitimate. Now, do try not to be shocked. It's actually not legitimate. And as a consequence, the episode happens, and AJ learns a lesson about the truth, which I'll cover later. The end. This is one of the Rainbow episodes. Continuity! So it gets a continuity counter for that, and for the fact that Flim and Flam are back. So that's 2 continuity counters for the episode. So let's talk. Let's chat. How you guys going? Yeah. Okay, so you ever heard of the nocebo effect? Near as I can tell, and I'm not an expert on the matter, but what's happening with Granny is a very clear example of the nocebo effect. Now, let me explain the nocebo effect really quick. Let's say, no, not placebo. This is different. Nocebo. It's similar. It's extremely similar. The way the nocebo effect works is, let's say I walk up to you and tell you, let's say I'm a professional medical person. I'd walk up to you and I'm all serious, I've got my book here and I'm like, oh, let's see. It looks like you have osteoarthritis symptomitis in your extreme epidermis. Now, as a direct consequence of this, you're going to be feeling some aches and pains, probably in your upper back, for the next couple of weeks. And then I walk away. Now, I'm lying. That doesn't exist, and you don't have that. The nocebo effect is a very real, actually studied thing where you will have pain in your upper back because of it. It's a really fascinating concept, really. It is something that is still being studied. Some of the studies are a little bit limited, obviously. But yeah, it is effectively the exact opposite of the placebo effect, which is very important in an episode about a placebo. Before I forget, I want to go ahead and read this first. Granny Smith's, not Granny Smith, Applejack's entry says, seeing Granny Smith making a splash and kicking up her hooves would have made me pleased as punch. Only hitch in the giddy-up was, Granny had it in her head that she was all healed of her aches and pains thanks to Flim Flam's miracle curative. Bigger hitch was, I played along, not telling her the truth. The longer I didn't tell her, the bigger the lie became. Soon Flim and Flam had roped her into a heap of lies, and I just don't cotton to that. Once you told the lie, how do you pony up and tell the truth? Being honest sure is hard when it seems like the truth might hurt some pony you care about, but I think believing a lie can end up hurting even more. Maybe some ponies don't care about that, but I sure ain't one of them. Applejack. Yeah, no kidding. WebMD, and I mean this with absolute sincerity, has had more of a negative effect than a positive one on the medical health of the human race. Just straight. And the nocebo effect is a huge part of why. It's also part of why some doctors, even good doctors, will run you through a barrel of tests before they confirm you actually have issues. Because that is a thing. It's like, it's part of the Barkley. TNG actually predicted this. The Barkley. It's the reason why most tech supports start with, have you tried rebooting it? Because rebooting it will cure 99% of issues with a computer. Now, we could go off on that topic, and I don't want to, because there's a lot to be said about that. But the point is, there's a reason that people usually have those what's usually called tier 0 when it comes to tech support. Now, you got your tier 1s, your tier 2s, but the tier 0s are the people who take the calls and try to filter out the people who, put simply, don't actually have an issue. Anyways, it's true for medical stuff too, but again, I'm getting off track. I could really go off on the medical industry if you know what I'm talking about. Alright, so nocebo effect. She thinks that she is going to be very damaged and injured by going into the water, so she is. That's how it is. And this is a clear-cut example of that. Given what the episode shows, and the episode does go out of its way to show its work on this, so I'll give it credit on that front. it is very clear that the only thing that was keeping her out of the water was up here. Now, that's important because sometimes there are physical things keeping you out of the water. Sometimes there are actually things that are, you have issues, or your bones are broken, or your muscles don't work right, or you have nerve damage, or whatever, right? So that's why it's so important, in my opinion, that the episode went out of its way to show repeatedly, clearly, that this was just in her head. If it wasn't for that, this would be a really big problem. And yeah, the episode does go again out of its way to show that there are limits to what you can accept there. But I'll get to that in a minute. So then, Flim and Flam show up. Yeah. So, I don't mind the change, but this is a clear change in character for Flim and Flam. The last time, they weren't literal snake oil salesmen, okay? I shouldn't misuse that word. They weren't straight snake oil salesmen. They weren't actually con men. The last time they showed up, they were like, hey, we've got a product that works and a service that works, and we're here to sell it to you. And then because of escalation, they became the antagonists of that episode. Yeah, exactly, SA2K. The super speedy cider squeezy worked. In fact, it worked great until they screwed up twice. Actually, I think it was more like 4 times. I went down the list when we were covering that episode. This is a straight-up lie. Now, lies are bad. Well, lies can be bad. For example, I'm secretly Elvis. There you go, there's a lie. That's not really bad because it doesn't do anything. But lies can be very bad, especially lies about the medical industry. This one admittedly pisses me off. Snake oil salesman, as in the concept, really pissed me off. Hey guys, this cures COVID. Just pointing out that it's still a problem. God, I'm trying to... I don't even know where to begin with how terrible that is. I think I'm just going to summarize. I think most people understand how absolutely damaging it is to sell a fake cure. Because, let's just run through a quick list. Quick list, okay? People will think they're cured and not seek a real cure, which is one of the most historical problems with snake oil. People will put resource, time, and effort into things that are not a cure, thus taking away from the possibility of actually getting people better, or actually studying this disease, or whatever, for actually curing it. Let's also go with 3, the horrifically inhuman implications of it. This is straight up evil. You remember we had this whole discussion about normal people, good people, evil people, normal people? Snake oil salesmen are evil. People who willingly, actively want to participate in selling people a miracle cure. You'll notice the episode goes out of its way, credit to the episode's credit here, goes out of its way to mention several times and show several times that the people who are in line to get cured are people with physical ailments. Now you're probably thinking, what do you mean physical ailments? I mean, there was a woman in a wheelchair. There's someone with broken wings. There's someone who's got, their arm is broken, right? Physical. The kind of thing that there's no cure for. It's an injury. There we go. I was trying to look for the damn word. It's an injury, not a disease, not a virus, but an actual physical injury, right? And there's a lot of those every single scene just to hammer this point in. And that is the kind of people that they are selling this miracle cure to, which, as a reminder, in case you missed that, is apple juice and beet leaves. And Mr. Botland, for some reason. I mean, he's cool. I'm cool with him. Thank you very much, as always, Mr. Botland. If you know where you want that one to go, let me know, please and thank you. So, funny thing, though. So I mentioned the injured people, right? The physical injury people. The next thing I want to mention is the Confederate is in the audience very early on. Now, actually, sidebar. I actually looked up You got it, Mr. Botland. Thank you again. I actually looked up other terms for Confederate because I feel like, you know, people aren't going to like it if I call this person a Confederate, thanks to the United States. So I'm looking up other terminologies for a Confederate, which include a shill, a plant, and a stooge. I forgot his name. Several scenes later, he mentions his name as Silver Shill, and I physically facepalmed as I was like, oh my god. Because I didn't remember his name. Anyways, it's exactly what it sounds like. They show this in the episode. This is really common, not just the con men. This is part of magic tricks, too. You put the person in the audience, and they're the random person who then comes up and is part of the trick in order to be a part of it. Because that way you control the variables more, is the idea there. Obviously, the intention with a magician is to entertain you. The intention with the con man is to rip money out of you. So, a little different. Yeah, exactly. SA2K. So Shill, but my point is, Shill, you can actually see Shill in the audience right at the beginning. The first time they show the long shot of the crowd, he is visible there. And I just thought that was a neat little detail I've never noticed before. So, placebos. Actually, before I got into placebos, let's rewind a second. I mentioned the injury thing. To really hammer this point on, not only does the episode show injured people in the audience several times, but only on NordVPN, Sean. But in addition to that, the injured Flim and Flam song actually focuses on injured people very quickly. Like if you're paying attention to the construction of the song, it's like, did you realize bacteria are everywhere? And if you pay attention, the crowd doesn't care, because everyone knows that. Do you know how many billions of bacteria are in this room right now? I mean, come on, whoop-de-doo, right? But then he's like, oh, but maybe you're not worried about that. Then we'll talk about these other things. And then they knock the person over, right, in the crowd. And then they start listing. So they go into injuries. And then next they go to, nope, Dream Whisperer. It is actually episode 19. I can screenshot it for you if you want. This one's episode 20, by the way. I'm going by the Amazon list, which I believe is production order or release order. It's one of the two, but that's the list I'm using, and that's how we're doing it. The end. Moving on. Trust me, I'm going to get all of those arguments when we get to TOS, which has 4 release orders. Anyways. or 4 orders in which the episode can be counted. Anyway, so yeah, they're just like, then injuries, and they focus all on the injuries, like, oh god, people are super injured, but we can cure that. Then they start focusing on really weird random diseases just to hype people up. And you can see how the construction of the song is designed to get people in on this. And of course, the actual shill, the Confederate they bring in, is a guy who's on crutches. Yeah, again, focusing on the injury. So Granny buys first. Yeah, I feel that. No, I do. You might call Granny stupid, and she is. But it's really relatable, isn't it? How many of you have seen an advert for something, and you're like, no. But God, maybe? Because it's something you really want. I'll go ahead and give my own personal example here. There are 2 things which I have given away or thrown away, depending, because they were things that were supposed to help me lose weight, to get rid of the fat on my gut. They did not work. I knew they were not going to work. I still bought them. Yeah. I didn't spend too much money on it because I'm not that stupid. But yeah, this is I'm actually with her. I'm actually with her on that. It is an extremely, especially in the moment. When you're just in the moment, it's just like, and you're like talking yourself into it, because just, God, if it works, right? If it works. And she clearly wants to swim again. That's the thing. If for me, I mentioned it's the belly thing, but she obviously loves swimming. That is shown in this episode, and she really does want to get back to that. And gosh, maybe if this can bring that back, maybe if, I don't know. And the episode even has this slow zoom in on her where she's like, God, maybe I can, sold. Like she talks herself into it. Yeah. This then leads to This then leads to the placebo thing. She then goes and she swims fine. Now this is important, the fact that she can swim fine. I already kind of talked about this, but the point is she does not have any actual thing that will actually prevent her from swimming. It was all up here. With that established, it's totally fine that she's out swimming and is basically going under the placebo effect at this point. Because yeah, Granny Smith just forgot that she was awesome. She even mentions at the end of the episode, "Nah, I'm fine. I can go swimming again, sure, why not?" I'll talk about that in a minute. The episode goes out of its way to emphasize that point many, many times. And this is the interesting, weird nature of the placebo effect, and the fact that Lower Loaded canceled tonight's Star Trek stream, by the way. Sorry. I was going to mention that at the end, but since he's here, I will go ahead and mention it right now. I think it's because he hates me, and because... Wait, are we still on tonight? Because if that's so, I need to cancel. Because the moment you said that, I made plans. Literally, the minute you said we were canceled, I made plans. Hang on a second. Like, you know me, I plan stuff in advance. Okay. I will go ahead and keep plans then. Alright. Damn it, man. If it makes you feel any better, what I've been doing is I've been waiting all week to see if it would happen, and a friend of mine and I, we're going to watch Bill and Ted tonight, I'll go ahead and tell you. And our schedules are so all over the place because we both work a lot that the only available time is Sunday evenings, period. That's the only slot we both have. So I said, all right, here's the deal. If I hear we're not having, the Star Trek stream, then I will go ahead and let you know, and then we can go ahead and schedule it for tonight, and blah, blah, blah. So this is kind of a one-time thing, to be clear, Lower Loaded. It's just, thought I'd mention why. Because that's why I was like, the moment you said that, I was like, yeah, sure, spoiler me up. So placebo effect, right? Placebo effect is real, obviously. There's many, many studies about it. And there are still, oh my god, really? There are not necessarily, why am I in jail? There's necessarily anything wrong with the placebo effect, except for the massive array of everything wrong with the placebo effect. Now, this is something from my aunt, the nurse I've mentioned several times. I want you to picture a puddle of water, okay? Now I want you to picture that you have sprinkled bits of acid into the water, right? Now the acid is such that it looks the same as the water. So some of that is super normal and some of that's not. That's placebo effect right there. And I know what you're thinking, but that has nothing to do with anything. Let me try and explain this a little bit better. The realm of acceptability in deliberate utilization of placebo effect is the water. The misuse of placebo effect is the acid. And it's all over the place, and it's not consistent because it all depends on the specific application and the exact circumstances. That's why this little spot is not okay, but this spot's okay, but this spot is not, but this is okay, but this is not, but this is okay, and so forth and so on. It's a minefield that you have to maneuver. But it is a minefield that you have to maneuver. Placebo effect is a very real thing that is very important in medical development. That's just life. Why? Hang on. What did we end the last session on, Other Lore? Why am I in a jail cell? Oh, I know. SA2K. So Granny has placebo effect. She thinks she's cured because she's drinking apple juice and beet leaves. Okay. So, glug, and she goes out and she swims, and that's okay. She is no, really, that is a good thing. She has now become aware of the fact that she can swim better because the placebo's happened, and what should have happened is placebo's removed. It's like, hey, you're fine, and then she's fine, right? And that is actually how the episode ends if you're paying attention. Let's talk about how Flim and Flam are really, really stupid. So, first of all, their overhead has got to be ridiculous on this shtick, right? They have this music and this show and dance and this giant tent and all these lights and all these props. They're all just out visible for anybody to go inspect, by the way. Anybody just wander around and see the props and the way they get the con across. No security whatsoever. No, I'm sticking with stupid for the moment. We'll get to evil in a bit. They then decide, after burning all this overhead on trying to get their things sold at all. By the way, the amount of overhead means they have to get more sales, which means they have to be more aggressive. Then they decide to use a shill in a small town like Ponyville. Now, if you don't understand the problem with that, and this is a real problem that real-life magician shows have had, if you put a shill in a small town, everyone immediately knows it's a shill, because they don't know that person, because everybody knows everyone in a small town. Who the hell is that guy? Yeah, exactly. In Canterlot or Manhattan or something like that. Yeah, sure, you can get away with that. They're doing this in Ponyville. By the way, they were also kicked out of town in Ponyville after nearly costing the apples their tree thing, which doesn't make them con artists, but what I'm saying is they're already starting at going uphill, and then you add the shill to the equation. So that's 3 layers of stupid so far. Then, just to really be stupid, they tried the exact same trick twice in the same town. This is, as I'm going through my notes, jotting down these problems, in all caps, I write down, oh god, his name is Shill. Oh my god, his name is Shill. In reference to the previous episode, Apple Bloom and Applejack are clearly lockstep with each other. I do like how they show that. You know, just the... And they just move in unison. It's great stuff. It's good stuff. I want to share a link with you here really quick. Whoops. The only one I've seen is the Las Pegasus one. SA2K. Well, what's stupid is the episode, Raskor. That's the point I'm actually building to. I don't like this episode if it's not obvious. Anyway, so yeah, apple juice and beet leaves. Then Flim and Flam decide to explain what placebo effect is for the audience who aren't really on board. And they use the concept of placebo as carte blanche for lying. Now, you remember what I mentioned earlier about the water and the acid? It's relevant because you got to stay in the water, right? There is a validity to what they're saying in this exact case with this exact person. Now, that's important because this is a little bit of A to Z syndrome. The problem here is that Applejack is stupid, because Applejack is not only, like, her being willing to go along with this for the sake of her mother, or excuse me, grandmother. The fact that she's willing to lie to her sister, the fact that she's willing to lie to the random townsfolk, and it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. I'm willing to give her some slack, because the first few steps are fine. And they are. The problem is everyone pushes everything way too far. That is basically the issue of the episode. Applejack actually... See, because up until this point, we're fine. She accepts that in this case, it helps out Granny. Fine. This then leads to something very interesting. And again, the episode is actually pretty careful about this. Granny is playing in the water... in swimming, you know, swimming in the water with Big Mac and with Apple Bloom, and then Apple Bloom's like, maybe we should start diving. Granny's response is, and you know, oh, don't you want to go diving? I like being in the water again, but diving, that's separate. That's a different thing. But we have that competition coming up. I don't know. Then Applejack decides to be like, you know what? You should do it. I mean, you've got the tonic, and she does specifically mention the tonic to Apple Bloom and to Granny Smith. That then leaves her being like, oh, okay. We'll totally go for it. Glug, glug, glug. So that's our next step. Now, in my opinion, that's already a step too far, to be completely blunt. But it is another step. Then they go to the aquatic thing. They have their little aquatic dance, underwater thing. Notice the episode goes out of its way to demonstrate that the two have been practicing this for some time. In fact, when brought up, how did you succeed at that? What do you credit to your success? Hard work? You know, what was it? I actually wrote down. Hard work? Lots of practice? Granny's response is, yeah, dismissively. But then mostly the tonic! Do keep in mind, though, that the only reason they did so well is because they put in a lot of hard work and practice. Then the episode just starts to lose me rapid fire, if I'm being honest, because at this point it just goes... because it escalates. It escalates way beyond acceptability way too quickly. I agree, SA2K. Do notice that at one point, one of the women actually asking Applejack, wait, does this actually work? Is a woman in a wheelchair. I mentioned her earlier. Now, Applejack, as was pointed out in chat, does not actually lie. What she does is she deceives, which is intending to deceive rather than actually saying something that is untrue. Which, in my opinion, is actually worse. And the fact that she's uncomfortable with it only barely makes it better. Then, just to really one-up everything, she sees Shill. And Shill is just, hey, I'm so happy. I was worried about what I was doing. Now, okay, again, credit to the episode. The episode goes out of its way to show that Shill is uncomfortable with all this pretty much from word go. The first time he takes off the mask and we see him after the second performance, he's clearly uncomfortable with all of this. Then Shill flat out tells Applejack, you taught me that it's okay to lie sometimes. Now... yeah, Applejack's response is just... how would that feel, you know? This then leads to her comment, well, okay, you know, lying for certain circumstances is fine. I forget how she phrases it better than I do. But if you keep doing this, someone's going to do something really dangerous and stupid. This then immediately, and I do mean immediately, leads to Granny Smith doing something dangerous and stupid, trying to do the high dive trick. She probably would have been very injured from that trick. By the way, I just want to say Gwen Stacy Spider-Man. Those of you who watched the episode know what I'm talking about. Moving on. Thankfully, that did not happen to Granny Smith. Now, this is already just at this point. But then we cut to... oh, well, this boosted confidence. And Flim and Flam immediately are like, yes, it boosts confidence, and that's not all it does. And this then leads to one of the just actually aggravating parts of the episode. Because what happens next? I mean, the whole episode has been bad ever since the second lie, to be completely honest with you. Yes, I do, Lore Reloaded. And I have actually already covered that. I do think the original, let's call it original, not true, was there. And we'll talk about that when the second one shows up. Anyways, so, yeah, they're giving... You've seen South Park, right? You see, I learned something today. They have a I've learned something today scene. Shill and AJ both give these big old speeches. And Flim and Flam just kind of quietly sneak out the back while they're doing it. Good job, guys. So Flim and Flam get away with no consequence. They've got all the money. They successfully conned a town out of tons of money thanks to Applejack. Zero repercussions, other than the fact that they can't keep selling here. Cute. Now, I am going to give the episode one bit of credit. Yeah, no kidding, Shikor. I'm going to give the episode one bit of credit here. It doesn't... Let me take that. Let me walk that back. The episode doesn't get credit for this because it doesn't do what it should have done with it. See, you might think the lesson here is don't lie. That is not the lesson. No, really, it isn't. The lesson of don't lie, well, that's over here, up against the side, right? The lesson this episode is going for is over here, aka what to do when you have already lied. Now, if you look at the episode, you can see the bones of that idea throughout it. The idea that Applejack gets convinced into lying about something, and then has to deal with, now I've lied, now what? And that's something she's not super familiar with, because she usually doesn't lie. And that being the lesson, and that is a good lesson for adults and for kids, both. The problem is, like I said, I don't give the episode credit for it because it doesn't focus on that aspect in any real substance. In fact, the only time the episode even acknowledges that in any overt fashion is in a brief time when Applejack is talking to the crowd during her "I learned something today" moment. So, yeah, I don't like this episode at all. I don't think it had good lessons. I don't think it had good examination. It didn't even properly... Like, the concepts of the nocebo and the placebo effect are fascinating concepts they could do a lot about, especially in a setting that has magic. Here, let me cast a spell that helps you out. Thanks! This is... I'm honestly thinking green for this one. I actively dislike this episode. What do you guys think? Yeah, this could have been a wonderfully nuanced episode. Where are we at? Josh Haber, who did Castlemania, which was a red, and Simple Ways, which was a yellow. I mean, this is yellow at a ceiling for me. I will not give this above yellow. I do not like this episode. I want to give it green. This isn't blue. This isn't Drek. I have seen worse. But yeah, I agree. This is the worst of the Rainbow Key episodes. I agree with that completely. In fact, if not for the fact that this was a Rainbow Key episode, this could be ignored in overall presentation. It's just, what is this mess? All right, tell you what, Lord Harrimont. Sell me. What do you think pushes it up to yellow? And you know I'm willing to listen to you. Yeah, the fact that Granny was going along with it, okay. The fact that Applejack went along with the first line, okay. And then the episode loses me completely, pretty much from that point onwards. It teaches kids about placebo. I could see that pushing it up to green. I agree with that. So we've come out of blue into green now, because of the placebo thing. What else you got? What is next week? Let me double check. I'm pretty sure next week is 2 good ones. Yes, testing, 1, 2, 3, and Treja. We'll be hitting Twilight's Kingdom Part 1 and Part 2 together as well. That should be fun. Lord T-Rec. Yeah, testing, 1, 2, 3 is... Well, I'll talk about it next week, won't I? It's a really good one. In fact, I don't want to talk it up. I'm sorry. I'm doing it. I apologize. See, I guess the problem for me, Lord Harrimont, is while I do acquiesce to that point, and I agree with you, the problem is that just brings it up to, you know, up to green. Below average, right? Yellow is average. Green is below average. This feels like below average to me. That's the long. I'm gonna make it green. I'm gonna make it green. Screw it. Guess we'll get Spike singing soon. Making stuff up as we go is awesome. Ah, you're right. This should be 19. Thank you, Dream Whisperer. Yeah, I got confused because I have both. All the documents I have to keep track of the episodes disagree with each other, of course. This is the exact same issue I had with TOS, no joke. I'm not joking, there's 4 different orders you can watch TOS in. It's absolutely nightmare. Anyways, for the record, we did production order when it came to TOS. There wasn't a wah-wah. That's good. Yeah, no, I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be back doing MLP, having our positivity moment for the week. Lord knows we need it right about now. Oh! Yes, hang on. Lord Harrimont has a good point. I knew there was one thing I was forgetting about. Do we talk about counter-continuity? Does this qualify as a counter-continuity? Now, I could honestly see an argument for 2 counter-continuity points. One for one for Applejack, and one for Flim and Flam. I'm not sure about Flim and Flam, but the Applejack one, I mean, she is, in my opinion, completely out of character at a certain point. Flim and Flam, not so much. I could see this just being a logical progression of their path. Applejack suddenly deciding to be okay with telling a crowd a partial truth because she's uncomfortable? Nah. You know, that just feels like straight-up character assassination to me. Especially since it's all about her learning a lesson in something that she could have had without having to do that, so whatever. So yeah, no, let's push that up. Boop. I'll make sure our numbers are equivalent, because I have the local copy and I have the HUD copy. There we go. Okay, so that's where we're at. Okay. So I am not doing a Star Trek show tonight, but tomorrow we will be playing Batman Arkham Asylum, and I do hope at least some of you guys are looking forward to it, and I'll see you there.